Tonight, Ukraine's president in the line of danger, target number one, and surviving at least 12 assassination attempts in the last 2 weeks. He has risen in popularity since the war began, and now the focus is on protecting him and also keeping him on the move. Emmett is a former captain with the U.S. Marine Corps and spent 21 years with the Secret Service as an agent. He is joining us live tonight. Danny, appreciate having a bit of your time. Without compromising too much, obviously, what can you share about the measures in place to keep somebody like President Zelenskyy safe?
Well, his security detail, they have quite a task laid out before them. Not only are they protecting him like they normally would, but they've got a war going on right now. So these are not ordinary times. I think that the one thing that's really keeping him alive right now is the fact that he is engaged in what we in the Secret Service would call off-the-record movements. That is, he doesn't tell anyone where he's going until it's just about time to go. He shows up at places where maybe he's not expected, he doesn't stay long, and he keeps moving. And that's really the key to survival in a situation like this, when you have a hot war going on and ordnance going off, and either directly at him or just in the area.
How often do you think they're moving him?
I couldn't say, but I know it's probably fairly often. In a situation like this, if you stay in place too long, you're dead. He probably doesn't sleep in the same place every night. And he's probably, I'm quite sure, he surrounds himself with very loyal, very dedicated people who are prepared to do absolutely anything to make sure that he's safe.
Right? It's hard to know who you can trust, and that goes for Putin as well.
Well, I think in President Zelensky's case, he is with the same people that he's been with forever. I mean, these guys have been with him for years, some of them, and he knows them quite well. You don't have any new faces showing up on a presidential type protective detail. These are all known entities.
You know, what's interesting is we do see him constantly posting on social media, inside his office, even in Kyiv. It is important that he does so because he's reaching so many people. He's mobilizing the civilian forces, but that comes with great risk, right?
Well, when you're looking at these videos that he's posting, they're probably, I'm certain, in fact, they're not live. You may be getting that video, but he may be miles away from that location. It would be absolutely insane for him to go to live feed because the Russians they're very adept at intercepting signals, good signal intelligence, being able to triangulate, home in on certain locations. So I think what you're seeing is something that happened maybe minutes or hours or quite a while before the fact when you actually saw it.
Well, but the other layer to this, Danny, right, is that we know the Russians have great cyber capabilities. So even if he's not going live, you know, they have devices, they have ways to communicate. That must be a challenge that compromises his safety, even having access to social media all day long.
Right. You know, and I don't think, once again, he probably turns it on, turns it off. Osama bin Laden learned very early on in that war that every time he turned his telephone on, cruise missiles started falling around him. So he started relying heavily on human couriers, runners, and so on. And I would think that that's probably what President Zelenskyy is doing also.
I'd love to get your thoughts about the layers in place to protect somebody like Vladimir Putin right now, given that the stakes are so high and he has become even more isolated.
His security service, they operate very similar to that of the Secret Service in the sense they use the concentric circle concept. We have an inner perimeter. Those are the agents who are with him, within arm's length of him. You have the middle perimeter, which is made up of military and police. And then you have the outer perimeter, which is mostly military types. So he's very protected. He's very insulated wherever he goes. And he, too, relies very heavily on off-the-record movements. He doesn't like people to know where he's going or where he is because he's probably has reached a certain level of paranoia, which dictators tend to do towards the end.
The other thing is there have been several of these high-level talks between both sides, and deciding who is involved, who is in the discussion must be a delicate strategy. Talk about the preparations in place to bringing two sides together when it is so volatile.
Well, that's more of a diplomatic thing. The Secret Service doesn't really get involved in that, but I know it's quite complex when you have two world leaders who are diametrically opposed to one another in ideology and other things. So to get them at the same table, sometimes it is very difficult. They argue about everything, the shape of the table, who's going to sit where, what the topics are that they're going to actually discuss. So for that reason, a lot of these talks are very difficult to actually arrange.
Wow. Danny Emmett, appreciate your insight, and thank you, sir, for your service.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.